Now, Richard may be known to some of you here. He's controller of BBC Children's and responsible for all CBeebies and CBBC output, including BBC One and BBC Two, two dedicated channels, websites, and interactive TV. Previously, he was the COO of BBC Children's. And he's had a long career at the BBC, starting in BBC Strategy, and was formerly a management consultant. We're very fortunate to have you here today, Richard. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for asking me here. I was asked to talk today about how we in BBC Children's are changing our business to try and compete in the very different age that we now face. And I've got some thoughts on how the media landscape is changing over the coming decade and what organisations need to do in order to thrive in the very different world that we'll face. And in particular, I want to talk, as you said, about the challenge of talent. Now, of course, the credit crunch and the decline in TV advertising have, of course, forced many organisations to focus on the financial and the immediate. And there is a lot of bad news, and many organisations, including the BBC, have been reducing rather than increasing headcount. But today I want to argue that in order to secure the long-term vitality of our businesses, we have to look to the longer term, and in particular to understand the big changes affecting our business. So I could summarise my speech in one line, and it's that our businesses are changing in profound and unprecedented ways, and it's only those organisations that understand these changes and respond to them innovatively will attract and retain the talented people who collectively will be the single most critical factor in securing our future success. So for BBC Children's, this challenge is brought into immediate focus by the department's move to Salford in 2 years' time. Also moving from London and BBC Sport, Radio 5 Live, and the BBC's Learning Department. And they will join the other BBC departments already based in Manchester to create a new base of about 2,500 people at Salford in 2011. So we have to persuade our people to relocate to Salford, and those who can't move, we have to recruit and develop a new generation of staff to replace them. So whilst your organisations may not have an equivalent challenge to the relocation, I'm sure you will share many of the wider challenges I face in attracting and retaining talent. Before I talk about this, I wanted to outline briefly what we're trying to do with CBBC and CBeebies. We aim to provide fresh, distinctive and creative programmes and websites that are loved by every child in the UK. And we try and be wholly child-focused. Our programmes and websites should inspire a child's imagination. They should open their minds to new worlds and leave children wide-eyed in wonder. They should help a child to understand itself and its place in the world. And they should encourage children to be responsible citizens. They should inspire children to be creative and active. And of course, they should also provide moments when children can laugh out loud. And finally, they should provide positive role models of children for children. And these aren't just words. This really is what we're trying to do on CBeebies and CBBC. And we really are focused on serving children with distinctive public service programmes and websites that bring credit to the BBC. We've also tried to bring great clarity to how we will deliver this overall mission. And over the last 3 years, we've been ruthlessly focused on three priorities. The first was the creative renewal of CBeebies and CBBC. The second was putting us in the vanguard of interactive and on-demand content. And the third was to strengthen in-house production. Each of these has been the subject of considerable effort, and it's been quite tough. Not least, we've reduced in-house staff from about 600 to about 350 in 3 years. But, encouragingly, reach and share on both CBeebies and CBBC have grown, and our approval measures have also improved. Last year, we won an unprecedented number of awards, with the CBBC channel winning the BAFTA for Children's Channel of the Year, and CBeebies being one of the BBC's most loved websites. So the question for me is, how can we sustain this progress by persuading talented staff to be part of Salford? BBC Children's is nothing without the skill, the commitment, and the creativity of its staff. And that's why my first and most important challenge is to make Salford an exciting, intriguing, and creatively appealing destination for the most talented staff. Indeed, I would go further. In my opinion, attracting the most talented staff, wherever they currently work, is the most important task we face. It's the single prism, I think, through which every decision on Salford should be viewed. So to me, Salford is not about buildings, it's about people. There's a second challenge, of course, and that's to ensure that we at BBC Children's have the right strategy to enable us to continue to fulfil our public purpose in this very rapidly changing world. And for those of us working in the media sector, we are living in tumultuous times. And I'm confident that in 50 years' time, when historians look back to write about this decade, they will describe it as a revolutionary period. They will see a point of inflection when the media landscape changed rapidly, profoundly, and permanently. And I think the first chapter in their history might simply be called Google. Search and access to limitless choice is changing everything. Children are in the vanguard of these changes. 94% of children already live in digital TV homes. More than 80% already have access to broadband. 3/4 of 11-year-olds have ownership of a TV, a games console, and a mobile phone. And 1/4 of all children regard their mobile as more important than their television. In other words, if they had to lose one, they'd lose the television before the mobile phone. And for them, of course, gaming is already far bigger than television. So those of us with children as our target audience have an invaluable glimpse of the future. Anyone born since 1990 is immersed in a world of extraordinary choice, both of content and devices. It's an always-on personal and mobile media world where online and offline personalities blur. The concept of creating, rating, searching, sharing, and mashing media is just as ordinary to them as sitting in front of a television is to me. This is the cohort that the American writer Don Tapscott refers to as the N generation. Indeed, a number of ideas in this speech come from Don's books on this new generation, and I recommend them. And someone once wrote that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Well, the habits of this N generation will, I am confident, become the new mainstream, and that's what makes them so fascinating. So I believe there are two underlying themes driving these changes. The first is that television viewing will shift gradually from a linear model of consumption to an on-demand model of consumption. And secondly, user participation on the web will become a mainstream phenomenon. And these may sound rather simple and unthreatening. They may sound completely obvious, and in a sense they are. But do not be deceived. Collectively, they herald a profound challenge to our business models. By on-demand, I mean people determining when they view the programs and short-form video clips they want to watch. On-demand can be delivered by local storage, such as a Sky Plus box or an iPhone. Alternatively, of course, it comes via a broadband connection, wireless or wire-based. For example, the BBC's successful iPlayer. But crucially, on-demand gives viewers more control. On-demand breaks the link, the coincidence, if you like, of the broadcaster providing something at just the moment that a viewer is both available to watch and inclined to watch the program being broadcast. And relying on that coincidence, I think, is a very inefficient way of doing things. It's like going into Tesco's and asking for chocolate McVitie's to be told that chocolate McVitie's are only sold between 7:30 and 8 on a Tuesday evening. And if you're not able to be in Tesco between 7:30 and 8 on a Tuesday evening, you don't get your favourite biscuit. And that's how we currently make most of our television programmes available. It's a bit odd. And worse, unlike the McVitie's, if you miss your favourite television programme, the chances are you've missed it forever. So improved choice and efficiency is why I believe the coming decade will witness the gradual substitution of live linear television with on-demand consumption. And I think this represents the third age of broadcasting, and that sort of grand claim demands a bit of explanation. To me, the first age consisted of linear channels and limited choice. And for television, that started in the 1940s with the BBC's first post-war regular transmissions. The second age of broadcasting, I think, began in the late 1980s. That was the age of linear channels, but great choice. So in the late 1980s, we saw the launch of Sky and BSB, who, of course, subsequently merged. And today, digital satellite offers a choice of hundreds of linear channels. The third age is the age of on-demand. This is an age of near infinite choice and truly global competition. And of course, where we are today, we see all three ages, depending whether you're a terrestrial-only household, a digital TV household, or a Sky Plus broadband household. I need to stress at this point, for fear of being misunderstood, that I do not believe that on-demand will replace linear channels. However, I do believe linear channels will diminish in importance as on-demand grows. And in the on-demand age, of course, programs have to stand on merit, stripped of the supports of either limited choice or scheduling. In this age, the type of programs we make, how we market them, how we exploit the archive, the rights we need, and the technical infrastructure required are all starkly different. And that's why I believe for all of us working in this sector, navigating the transition from the second age to the third age represents a much more profound challenge than that posed by either multi-channel or digital in the 1990s. My second theme is user participation, and this covers a multitude of different activities, including creating content, whether text, pictures, audio, or video, evaluating it, sharing it, personalizing it, and discussing it. In exactly the same way that a single telephone is useless, but becomes exponentially more valuable as more people have them, so it is with user participation. With sufficient numbers involved, you can be guaranteed to find the photo you want on Flickr, that recommendations really are useful, and that your network on MySpace really does encompass your social circle.